A very special good evening to all of you on this fifth international conference. On the first day, we have a very special, unique guest speaker with us, Honorable Gerry Opoka, ma'am from Uganda, East Africa. She is a holistic wellness consultant, certified Zumba trainer, mental health advocate, and weight loss coach. So today she is going to enlighten us on a very relevant and important topic, that is beyond the physical, unveiling the interplay of spirit, spirituality, and mental health. So, not taking too much time, now I would like to request our guest to kindly proceed today's session. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Samyak. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, depending on where you're watching us from or when you are watching. Yes, my name is Gerry Opoka, and I'm really excited to be here with you on this day. First of all, as we start our Mental Health Awareness Week, this week we celebrate, this week is World Mental Health Day on the 10th. I am the things that he said I am. I also am a mother of 2 children and a wife. On top of all the titles to my name, I also am a lifeist, and I like to talk about lifeist because I question everything that is life, and it is from that I draw all the direction, the wisdom, the knowledge that I have. And I would like to move us straight off to the slides. Right. So this topic is very near and dear to my heart because since 2017, I've been on a journey. I've been asking lots of questions because I went to the National Referral Mental Hospital here in Uganda in 2017 for the first time. And seeing the patients inside the hospital made me ask, how sure are we that, first of all, they are sick? That's number one. Number two, what could they be suffering from? Number three, because they say they see things, they hear things, they seem to perceive the world differently. Those of us who don't perceive it as they do say it is not true. So I'm looking at all these men and women, boys and girls in the hospital, and I'm always wondering, what if what they are saying is true, but we just don't understand? What if we cannot see what they see? What if we cannot hear what they hear? Does that mean that they're going to stay locked in that cage of misunderstanding by themselves? Does that also mean that a blessing of long life for them is going to be a curse if all their lives they're going to sit in this space where no one understands who they are? And I always said there has to be more. There has to be more that the Creator planned for these people. There has to be more to their existence than being told that what they perceive is not true. And it led me down a path of so many questions, which meant that I had to fully open my heart to receive the answers, because a lot of them were unconventional. A lot of my questions were taking me to places that I would ordinarily have never, ever gone. And I chose to take every experience in my life as a learning. And one of the things that stood out for me is that after talking to one of the patients who had left the hospital and come back, I asked him what was wrong, because I often asked them what they were struggling with. And he said, when he realized that I sincerely wanted to know what he was going through, he told me he had voices, and eventually the voices grew to him seeing things on the TV. And when he could not get them to stop, he broke the TV. When he broke it, obviously his family was upset. He doesn't come from a very wealthy family. So of course, to break their flat screen TV was literally him just being bad-mannered. He was beaten up, and in the process, he beat his mother and was back in hospital. So when I probed him a bit more, he seemed very sincere. And he also said that since no one, the doctors say it doesn't exist, so he doesn't know. Maybe they don't exist. And so I went back and I thought, who are we as human beings? We are spirits. We're spirit beings having a spiritual experience in a physical body and world. And I thought to myself, what does this really, really mean? We've had it said in churches, we've talked about it severally, we pray about it, but do we really truly understand the application of it in our everyday existence as physical beings? And for me, it became very pertinent to understanding what these people are going through and also what all of us are going through. Because if we are in agreement that we're spirit beings and that we are having a spiritual experience, a momentary spiritual experience in a physical world and body, then we have to look at what that truly, truly means in our everyday. So I looked very quickly at the dictionary to find the definition. And the Oxford Dictionary says it's a non-physical part of a person, which is this, very importantly, which is the seat of our emotions and character. It also can be called the soul. Wikipedia, which is the two places I've looked for a lot of definitions, Wikipedia says in religion and philosophy, the spirit is the vital principle or animating essence within human beings. So it is the thing that animates us. And then there's also a view that it is in all living things. So both of them acknowledge that it's a non-physical part of us. It is the one that animates us. It is the one also that holds our emotions. So what is spirituality? Spirituality, Oxford Dictionary, is the ability to connect with that which is greater than us all, of which we are all a part. So it is greater than us, but we are a tiny fragment of that great thing. Then the other definition is that it is the recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than us, that there is something to which we connect. There is something that, a big brother, if you may, that is watching over us. We're not here just by ourselves going through the motions of the day. The spirit and the physical are two different states of being of who we are. And the spirit will operate on its own. The physical operates on its own. Like when the physical will touch a physical, my physical mouth will eat physical food. My physical body needs physical support. Whereas my spirit body needs spirit support. It needs it needs me to be able to support it by pouring into myself from a spirit perspective. However, somewhere in the center is an intersection. We have heard people say that they are under some sort of spirit attack, that they are experiencing things that are not normal, that are affecting them, something that is not physical, but is affecting them on the physical. And I will give you an example. One day, we were going through something. Remember, I said this journey for me started in 2017, and it's also very personal, the experiences and what I've learned. I remember one time we were going through something. I just lost my brother in 2017, which is really the genesis of all this questioning, because I kept saying, where has he gone? What does it mean that he doesn't exist anymore? So I learned then that there was activity going on, and we were being told, oh, there's spiritual warfare and so on and so forth. We had people coming home to pray. And then one day my daughter started screaming in the corridor in the house. I said, what is wrong? She said, something hit me. I said, what do you mean something hit you? And then I thought to myself, wait a minute. Did some invisible something just physically attack my child? I prayed for her and she was fine, but it made me even more curious to understand what it is. So that explains that intersection, that sometimes there is a merging of experiences that is so real, where a spirit will actually cause the physical body to feel certain situations. But when people are not okay, when you're not okay in the spirit, you will have an innate knowing that something is not right. And normally what we do is we will go either to a church or to a temple or to a mosque. We will go to a traditional healer. People will go and get into states of meditation, and we'll go to a counselor or a therapist because we want them to speak to us and tell us, what is going on. So what we're looking for in that space is we want to realign ourselves to our higher selves. We want to reconnect to that which we know is the bigger thing that is managing everything that there is. We want to refocus because many times when we feel like we're not okay on a spirit level, we are all over the place, we are scattered. So when we go to these places, we want to bring ourselves back to focus. And then we also want to reaffirm to ourselves that we are capable, we are strong, we can do what we have to do, those things that we would be struggling with. Something else that I learned is that we live in a world of contrast. And this really is the crux of the matter of so many things that we deal with. Is that if we live in a world of contrast, we need to understand that there's always another side. One side only exists because another side exists. The law of polarity sits smack in the middle here. It says that there is an opposite for everything in the world. Even the lightest shade of off-white is like that because there is an opposite of it that it is not. So it is the whole yin and yang. There is light because there is an absence of darkness. There's darkness because there's an absence of light. And if you look at the bar of polarity, on the extreme end, it could be an emotion of love that on one extreme side, it is love. And on the other extreme side, it is an absolute absence of love, which could be fear, which could be anger, which could be hatred, which could be all kinds of things. But it is all on the same spectrum of that emotion. Then I went in and I found conscience. I don't know what I was looking for, and I chanced upon conscience. This is back then in 2017. And it blew my mind because a lot of the depictions, as you can see on the screen, of conscience spoke to there being beings that we listen to. So a person's moral sense of right and wrong, which is viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior, is what the conscience is. So when you literally have to make a decision, you have to decide, do I go right, do I left? Do I eat the chips or not eat the chips? Do I pick up the phone and blast this person to smithereens, or do I just let it go? When we ask that question, what should we do? I want us to understand that what this is depicting is that we then listen to one side and then listen to the other side, and we make a decision. Everywhere on the internet, a lot of the images on the internet will depict them as an angel and as a demon. Why? Because the angel is going to tell you, do not fight, do not make the call, maybe take some time off, while the angel is going to say, let's go and get that person and punch them in the nose. So we never realize, but we are the third party. And we are waiting, depending on where we are and what is happening in our lives. We're going to choose either to follow the angel or that other voice and say, this is what I'm going to do. Let me chill, let me relax. Or we're going to choose the one that is making normally the loudest noise, because we know that people who are not very nice, they want to get their point across. They literally jump up and down saying, me, pick my choice. It is the best right now. We are angry. Let's go. And these influencers are nothing but spirits. They're spirits that are speaking to our spirit. But because they are part of us, quote unquote, it's like we are the ones having the thought, should I go here? Should I go here? Then we listen. But we are literally listening to these spirits having a conversation, and our spirit is watching, and it's going to choose who makes the most sense. Something else that we have to understand is that in our lives, in our whole existence, there is a phenomenon called themes. Themes of our lives will be like common experiences or situations that keep replaying in our lives. They support an overarching thought or idea, validating a course of action in one's life. Before I got on this call, I was speaking to somebody, and she's nursing a heartbreak. But when we got talking, she talked about a relationship she was in before, and it ended not nicely. And then she got into another relationship years later, and it's exactly, I mean, it's like 95% the same thing, the way it played out, and then it has ended. And she's feeling like, what is that telling me? Now, these are only two situations. I don't know what else she might find in her world. But we normally have that thing that kind of keeps popping up in different situations. You feel like you're let down always. You try to do something and people let you down. People let you down. People let you down. Or you want to do something and you're too afraid. You're too afraid to speak. You carry yourself up to a certain point and then you stop and don't continue. Those are the little experiences that when we look through our lives, we find that it is all pointing to one general theme. Now, that is how we define the themes. So Anthony L. Fisher says, life themes are repeatable, recognizable experiences communicating to us who we really are and what we are to do with our lives. So it is, normally we find this out in our later years, that there is things that have come repeatedly in our lives. Therefore, a theme can be summed as one's search for meaning of life, because eventually it's going to be the thing that is going to drive, why am I here? What am I here to do? Now, these origins of themes, if we go back to this slide, these common experiences and situations that keep replaying in our lives have origins, and there are three. In this circle or circles, the one in the center is our past lives or our ancestry. This is where the recurring experiences are not ours. And sometimes I've done it myself. I have looked through situations that I struggle with, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I know that what I'm dealing with has no correlation with my existence today. Like, it doesn't fit anywhere. Now I know that that is from a past life, or it's from an ancestor who lives inside of me. Then their childhood experiences, especially in our formative years, at the time, 2, 3, 4 years, we pick up experiences from our surroundings, our homes, our families, that are going to form the theme that our life is going to take on. This is what they say, oh, she has trauma from childhood. And then there are also current life situations. Like, you could find yourself, every job that you go to, something happens. So it comes from as deep as our past lives and gets into our childhood and then gets into our everyday. Now that, the culmination of all that is then the theme. So then I asked, what are the different types of spirits then? Because it's not just one spirit. And these are the three major groups that I have put together. One are ancestral spirits. Ancestral spirits are those that we come with when we come into this life. In the physical, we carry DNA of our parents and our ancestors. And you find people from one race carrying DNA from a completely different race that they don't look like at all, but there is a fragment of it. That is because somewhere in their lineage, there was a person from that race. So that is ancestral. And what we carry in the physical, as above, so below, we carry also in the spirit. Now, these ancestors will come either to support us or to be supported by us. I'll talk about that later. The other ones are opportunistic spirits. These ones, the positive ones, are just roaming around waiting. They're nice. They're just waiting to help us. They see us about to fall in a ditch, and they will sort of cause us to get out of the way so we don't fall in, while there are others that are going to want to wreak havoc every now and again. Then we have the spirits that are balanced. They're here to balance. This is what they are balancing. They're balancing the contrast, okay, that is on earth. So you have angels, you have guides, you have demons. These will be the opposites of the angels, and they keep the equilibrium of the earth so that the contrast stays. Then there is emotional vibrational frequencies. Remember that earlier on we said the spirit is the seat of emotions. Emotions are the temporary states of being, but it's how we feel, it's how we express ourselves and what we are feeling, what we are going through. And I love this diagram so much because it helps me, or it helped me understand the things that we go through, why we go through them, and how we end up in the spaces that we end up in, especially where mental health challenges are concerned. The upper part of it, up till about the blue section or slightly below the blue section, all those are expanded states of being. You have willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. And there are about 34,000 emotions that you can fit in there when you mix and match them together. But those are generally considered high vibrational frequencies. And if you look at the frequency numbers, because they're all like radio stations, like you tuning a radio station, they all have numbers, and that goes anywhere from 310 upwards. Then at the bottom, we have the low vibrational or contracted emotions. That is courage still sits up there. You're like, you know what? I have the courage. I'm going to do it against all odds. You're starting to come out. But pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame are low vibes. Then you're in a low vibe, and the other one is a high vibe. Now, where we want to be is we want to be in a high vibrational place. Then so while these are the states of being, we all aim to be in the upper, higher vibrational states because we are more expanded, we're more open, we have a better perception of the life that we're living. We need to understand, and I'm going to piece all these things together. Once we've understood the vibrational emotions and where the frequencies are of our emotions, the joy, the anger, the grief, the sadness, the shame, and the gratitude and all that, we have to understand that for all of us who exist, we have vibrational wounds. And these vibrational wounds, of course, a wound is not going to be a positive thing. A wound is an injury. They are vibrational injuries that we all carry. And these are the ones that also define the theme that becomes our life. So these injuries are areas of our lives that cause sore or raw emotion. You get into a situation with somebody, everything seems fine, but suddenly they say something and you feel this raw emotion. You find yourself in a room and people are saying certain things and everyone is fine with it, but you are rubbed a very wrong way. That is because that situation has touched a certain wound. This is why when one person says something, we get angry, we kind of brush it off. Another person says it and they tick us off so badly. It's because there is something about this situation that is touching a raw nerve or a raw wound. I want us to listen to this. It is the entry point of negative spirits. I want us to also understand that this thing which they call witchcraft, and we'll talk about it ahead. People talk about witchcraft in mental unwellness a lot, and it's always brushed off. But I want you to understand that it is real, but possibly not in the way that we think, but I will explain that. Witchcraft rides on the understanding that we have vibrational wounds. Okay? Why? Because if my vibrational wound, if I go back to the vibration here, if my vibrational wound is one of fear, and I'm afraid to get into a relationship, for example, because of something that happened to me in the past, every time I try to get into a relationship, if somebody wants to attack me, whatever entities they send to pull me down are going to be the ones that are going to latch onto my vibrational wound of fear to amplify the fear that I feel. Now, we want to have high vibration. That is the one that is preferred. But low vibration also has a purpose. However, we should dip into low vibrational states temporarily. What could be the purpose of a low vibrational emotion? Guilt. Guilt humbles us. When we've done something, you've hurt somebody and you feel guilty, it humbles you. It makes you check yourself and say, you know what I've done to this person is actually not nice. I feel so bad. I feel so guilty. I've betrayed a friendship. I should go and apologize. I should not sit in the guilt and start to marinate in it. If it's anger, it's okay to be angry because it's an emotion. I need to let off the steam. Somebody has done something that has hurt me, but I cannot stoop in that anger for too long. Now, both of these states of being, the positive and the negative, are going to alter our physical body. That is why when you're angry for so long, your body is going to respond a certain way. Sometimes when you're so upset with somebody, you break out in a sweat. That is because from the spirit, there's been a physical manifestation. Now, let's look at some of the manifestations of things that come from spirit. I've already talked about anger that makes you sweat. Frustration that makes your heart beat. Some people break out in a sweat. I know of a lady who, a dear friend of mine, when she would get so upset, she would get so mad that she would burst a blood vessel, and so she would get a nosebleed, and that is how we would know that, okay, she is beyond regular anger. But we know that diseases like heart disease, we have been told that is from people who hold a lot of pain, who hold a lot of anger in their hearts. Cancer is very much now being listed as one of those emotional manifestations of emotional distress that we're holding on to that is going to make us sick. Injury. Recently, I hurt my toe. And I knew that injury was because I was already thinking certain things. My spirit was already saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. We need to figure this out. And I did not. And the minute I hit my toe, I knew about it. I figured that that's what it was. I actually made a video that I put out on TikTok. But a few weeks later, somebody came to me and said, oh, I wanted to share something with you about your toe. I think there is something that it's a spiritual thing. And I was like, what do you mean? Then she says, it is about you focusing on believing in yourself. And I knew that that is exactly what I was also feeling. So for me, that was a confirmation. People who suffer from anxiety and depression will have physical pain. It is real pain. People call it phantom pain, but it's real pain. When you see them, they're in real pain. But they go to hospital, there is no, they can't find any reason for the pain, and the doctor doesn't even know why they have the pain. So it's very difficult to treat. And we also know of people who have been depressed to a point where they die. Literally, you're so depressed, you detach from your higher self, because that's what depression is. Depression is really just disconnection. So you disconnect from your higher self so much that it is not possible to go back. So the code actually breaks. That's when you die. However, for you to die from depression, your body has to then switch off, and you're going to go through a number of changes that are going to cause that. So the other phenomenon that I want us to speak about is a thing called familiar spirits. Now, we hear a lot about familiar spirits, especially in churches. That's where I first heard about familiar spirits. And they made sense, because they said, oh, when somebody wants to do something bad to you, they are going to send spirits to you that are going to watch your every move and relay the information back to whoever wants to harm you. So that was the familiar spirit. You feel like you're being watched and so on and so forth. If I was not in the troubled place that I was, I would have disregarded it. But then it seemed to make sense. But now, looking at the mental health space, I look at familiar spirits differently. These are spirits that are familiar in their manifestation. So let's look at the definition of familiar. Well known from long or close association. So either somebody that has known you for a long time or somebody that is so close to you that in that short time they know you well. It is not necessarily family, although people think that familiar spirits are to do with families. These familiar or familiarity includes traits and habits from a long period. Even for me, I'm familiar with certain things about me because I've been doing them for a long time. I know why I do them. When I get in certain situations, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm familiar with myself in that space. Familiar spirits, in this case, are going to present themselves with similar traits to the way a person always presents themselves. Familiar spirits, when familiar spirits come and latch onto you, when the familiar spirit finds your vibrational wounding, it is going to leech on, but the spirit that is going to leech on is not going to be one that doesn't match your issue. If I am a person who's always in the mornings, I'm very grumpy. Like, I'm so grumpy. A familiar spirit, when it wants to, or when there's a reason for it to come through, maybe I'm going through depression, or I've been stuck in a place for too long, it is the one that is going to cause me to, it's the one that is going to come, is the one that is going to match my morning behavior. Okay? Why? So that it is hard to pinpoint as new. So you cannot tell that, okay, why is she grumpy in the morning? I am like the most upbeat person in the morning. So if I became grumpy, even I would say, what is happening? Why am I grumpy? Then I would know. So a familiar spirit will not come and alter you completely. It will still alter you, but not completely. Then these familiar spirits are difficult to register and isolate. So it's difficult to see when you're getting worse, because everyone says, oh, it is because they're like this, it's because they're like this. So it's easy for them to explain away, and then it is also very easy to disregard. That's how she is, that's how he is. He's always fighting, she's always crying, she's all these things. She just hates people who she's things like that. So we think, oh, that is just how they are. Today they seem a bit worse, but that is who they are. And let's look at some of the examples of familiar spirits. Anger. Like that friend of mine who would get angry. I mean, she's in somebody's office and she loses it in a split second until she has a nosebleed. Up to the time she has a nosebleed, she doesn't even know what is going on. And the funny thing is, even when she's telling the story, you can see it start to well up. And I say, what is it? And she says, I actually don't know. When you find people on the road rage, that is not normal. Yes, you may be having a bad day, but if you have road rage every day, you start to form a pattern. This is where these opportunistic spirits come and latch onto you. If you are sad, you've lost somebody, and you're the kind of person who is going to now wallow in your misery and stay in that place for too long, then what do they say? Where your attention goes, energy flows. So if your attention is in that place, energy is going to move in there. And what is energy flowing in that place doing? It is creating emotion. It is creating, the energy is in motion, and energy in motion is emotions. So if your energy is flowing, or if your energy is in motion towards a place of sadness, then you are going to separate yourself from your higher self, from the positive place, and this is when now you say, I am depressed. It is not just you who is depressed. You have been surrounded by entities that are convincing you that this is where you're supposed to be. So that anger, promiscuity. I like this one because I have seen some people, you're out in the club, you're having a good time, they have a drink and they're like animals. They throw themselves, if it's a man, he is trying to grope everybody. If it's a woman, she's trying to, throw herself at everybody. I'm always like, this is not normal. But because of the space that we are in, no one thinks it's a problem. They say, oh, that man, he likes women, or that lady, is always trying to, to get herself connected to guys, or she likes guys. So no one is going to read it as anything different until it gets out of hand. Excessive kindness, this one people could pass off as if it wasn't there, but people who are so kind that they're used and they're drained, and then eventually they become sad. And then those who have a victim mentality, I've talked about that. But in the space of mental illness, let us look at some of the mental health conditions that the most, not the most popular, but the most common mental health conditions, and let's see what is happening. If we look at schizophrenia, for example, schizophrenia is when people say they're seeing things beyond the physical. They're hearing, they're seeing, there's a distortion, there's disillusion, and these are words that we use. We say they're hallucinating. I watched a lady on TikTok recently who, she wakes up in the morning and she says she has to look down as she goes to her bathroom because she says, today there are so many people in my room. And she believes that she didn't even understand what it is. Those are spirits. These are people whose veil between the physical and the spirit side has thinned so much that they're able to see. Either they hear voices, let's talk about the hearing. They hear voices speaking directly to them. They hear voices speaking about them, or they hear voices having their own conversation, nothing to do with them, but somehow you're eavesdropping. People with bipolar, severe mood swings, like you go for periods where you're on a high, you're manic, you're charged, you can go, and then you dip and go back down to a low place and get into depression. This is not just you. Depression itself, disconnection from your higher self. Because all these things that you're hearing, that you're telling yourself, or you think you're telling yourself, it is the spirits that are speaking to you. Remember the conscience. One angel, one demon. Depending on where you are, if you're in the pit of low vibration, the demon is going to sound like they're real. Like what they're telling you is absolute truth. You won't hear the angel. Anxiety. Every time there's something that we have not done, we feel anxious. In the same way, when you're anxious on the mental health side, I'm always saying, what is it that you're not doing? What is your anxiety trying to communicate to you? And it's always, I'm worried that this, I'm afraid that this, I haven't done this, and I think this is going to happen. That is what it's communicating. But it is being aggravated by these spirits. Personality disorders. Listen, with personality disorders, you literally are taking on different personalities. They are so strong that they come through. One day you're laughing, one moment you're laughing, you're smiling, you're talking about this. Another day you're completely somebody else. And I've watched some of these online, and it's amazing. It's amazing how one person can be 2 or 3 different people. Some of them even give their different personalities names. So those are very, very strong manifestations of spirits. Now, I use the word possession here as an English word, not to say, the way we know possession and so on and so forth, although that's what it is, but I want us to just look at it as an English word. When you have been consumed by the spirits such that they are now in the driver's seat of your life. There is a show on, I don't know, a channel on YouTube called Soft White Underbelly. When I watch this show and I watch how these human beings are, I know that they have been taken over. They seem to always pick that people who are extremely, extremely in a bad way, extremely afflicted. So if you go and watch that, you will be able to see that. But then there are also this terminology that is mad. I am the first person to say it is wrong to use the word mad. However, the person on the street, the one who's eating out of a dumpster, the one who is in brown, black clothes because of how long they have not taken a shower and how long they've been out in the mud and their hair is matted. When we talk about mud, normally that is what comes to mind. Those people have also, and sometimes you'll find them talking to themselves. In Luganda, there's a saying, I'll say it in Luganda and then I'll change back to English. It says, "Bamuloga ne bamulekamu akasale kubo." That literally means the person was, because the assumption is that they were bewitched, right? So they say that person was bewitched and completely finished, but they only left a sense in them to cross the road so that they are not knocked down. That means they're really so far gone. Now, every time I work with anyone who has a mental health challenge, I want to understand, are they really sick or are they gifted? Because there's a gifting that shows up, a spiritual gifting that presents itself like mental unwellness. Number one, there is a thing called a spiritual awakening. I was reading a book that said, I forget the name of the book, that said some people's awakening happens when they hit a tree. And what they meant is that you may think that you're driving to location X, you're late for a meeting, you have to be there, you're totally focused on getting there in time, your life is going in a certain direction. And then you hit a tree and suddenly your car is wrecked. You just cannot continue anymore. You have to stop. And whatever you thought was important has to end. And now you're questioning, so what is happening here? So what are we supposed to do? It's like your world completely shifts direction. I went through my spiritual awakening in 2017. My tree, the tree that I hit, was losing my brother. And it birthed this for me because I started asking. A spiritual awakening is really coming back to yourself. It is an awareness of a new reality and who you truly are. If you were driving to this place, suddenly you're thinking, why did I think arriving at that place was the end all and be all of life? Why was I throwing myself like that? So it says you'll feel called to uncover the truth and purpose of life. And once you start, there's no going back. This is what happened to me. You start questioning reality, the government, consumerism, and people's intentions. This I got out of a Global magazine in the UK. Then the other one is a psychic gifting. While spiritual awakening, we awaken from like a slumber at some point in our lives. Psychic giftings are normally inborn. So these are strange mental powers and abilities, such as the ability to predict the future, know what others are thinking, and or receive messages from dead people. And we know people do this, and they cannot be explained by the natural laws of life. I invite us to go and watch a documentary called Crazy Wise. I mean, it is amazing how this lady and gentleman were completely broken, mentally off, trying to commit suicide, living on the streets. And the lady today is a healer. She went and got she's a Sangoma now. She's in the US, but she had to go to South Africa to get initiated. And today she's a healer who speaks to mental health practitioners in the US. So I want us to talk about African spiritual healing. And very briefly, African spiritual healers or African spiritual healing practices understand and appreciate our ancestors who in where I am right now in Uganda are called judges. Judges are like grandparents. So they call them judges, and they really understand that these judges are here normally to do two things. One, they're here to support us. They are our individual helpers. They add their essence to our lives, and they say, as you struggle through this, lean on me, I'm here for you. And then they're also helpers of the collective. So if my ancestor reincarnates with me and they are supposed to help the masses, then I have to come to that place where now I'm going to embody that which they are supposed to do, and we do it together. This is how you have seers. This is how you have healers. This is how you have people even who are doing work that doesn't seem to be spiritual, but they are helping people. That could also be an ancestral spirit that is inside of them that is helping them do that. However, on the flip side, there are also spirits that have come with us so that we support them to heal that which they did not heal while they were living. Even though positive, both of these can manifest as negative until we understand what is going on, okay? Because many times when we don't, we'll think, oh, there's all kinds of things. There's a lady called Dr. Marielle Bouquet. She has written a book, Healing Intergenerational Family Trauma. I think it's Breaking the Cycle. And she is a professor at Columbia University of Columbia. And she is now really shaking the internet spaces with her book and with her teachings. She talks about us having over 700 and something thousand or some ridiculous number of ancestors or past lives that are in us. And when she says past lives, for us, we call it ancestors. Because what are those past lives if I'm here? Who lived before me? It was my mom. It was my grandmother. It was my great-grandmother. Those are the past lives of me, because when I'm here and I'm here as them, carrying their fingers, carrying their toes and so on, I am literally carrying that in them. And the other one is the earth balancing entities. These are, the African spiritual healers or the spiritual culture understood that there are hierarchies in these balancing entities. Just like you have archangels, you have angels, and then you have guides, spirit guides and fairies and all these. They know that also for them or for us as Africans, we understood that on a spirit level, there are those helpers who are not necessarily us. They're not part of us. They're not our ancestors, but they're here to help us, and they help the collective. So these are the balancing ones. And we also have the demons as well, because for us to know the negative side of anything, there has to be an entity that carries that vibration. There has to be an entity that is going to make us really get into the space of anger, the space of grief, the space of jealousy, the space of shame, of guilt, all these things. Those are the entities that are here to carry that vibration so that we can experience. Okay. Then the third section. So we've looked at the ancestors, we've looked at the earth balancing entities, and then we look at the opportunistic spirits. These opportunistic ones are, I call them trapped souls. So the negative ones are the trapped souls, because when they died, they were in a low vibrational state. That fragment of that soul could not be completely freed. And so it roams the earth. But as it roams the earth, it needs to find, a host body that it can latch onto, so that it can do the low vibrational stuff that it's here to do. But it doesn't necessarily have to stay like that forever. Until somebody is able to free it, it will continue to roam and continue to wreak havoc. Then we have helper spirits who are also opportunistic. These ones, they may not be my relative, they may not be part of my lineage, but they are just good spirits. And normally these will be the ones that were also generally helpers in real life. And sometimes when somebody has passed away, and I know that there was such a community helper, if I need something that they were good at, I literally will speak to them and I say, support me also. Like, please come and support me. Let's go and do this thing, because I know that you understand this full well, and add your energy to my energy, and let's go and do what it is. So these opportunistic spirits are easy to kick out, but also they're very quick to come back, because they're just cantankerous like that. Now, let's talk about witchcraft. Witchcraft is the manipulation of energies for a specific result. Wikipedia says it's the use of alleged supernatural powers or magic. Oxford says it's the malevolent exercise of supposed supernatural powers, especially by women, attributed to a connection with a devil or spirits. That is so. Anyway, let me continue. And then I also thought, okay, supernatural powers of magic. What is magic? The power of apparently influencing events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Okay, an attempt to understand, experience, and influence the world using rituals, symbols, actions, gestures, and language. And I like this one specifically from Wikipedia because you want to understand the energies exist. And many times we are actually using these energies without knowing. We are creating these situations without understanding them. Then I thought, okay, what is a miracle? Surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. So the way that these words are used, for me, they are the same thing. It's just that we're sanitizing certain words and then we are unsanitizing others, but at the end of the day, they affect us the same way. In the mental health space, the manipulation of spirits using words, actions, rituals to bring about certain events is what we do, especially to ourselves every day. We say words of ourselves. We say things about ourselves that come because we know that there's magic in our words, in our tongue. We know that there's power. Hexes, spells, even religions do this. That's why you find that in different religious practices, they have rituals. Before you eat, you have to pray. That is a ritual. If you want something to be done, you have to fast for 9 days. And then you have to wake up every night at this hour and pray. Say this, repeat these words so many times. You are not just praying to God because God or the Creator does not need you to speak 9 times for him or her to understand what you're saying. You just need to speak once. But when you are told, do this so many times, do this at this time, and then like this, like this, like this, you are manipulating the energies of the earth. So there's self-inflicted witchcraft, which is our thought patterns. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. No one loves me. No. You put energy, you put the words, you give them power, and then they become you. Now, to fix this, we have to understand and heal the wound because these things that we do form vibrational match wounds for other entities to latch onto. If every day I say I'm not good enough at my job, I think I'm going to lose my job, I'm not good, then the entities that have a vibrational match are going to latch onto you, and now it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you say, oh my God, I knew it. I knew this was going to happen. So these wounds invite these spells to speak. So we have to raise our vibration and come out of it. Because when you're at a higher vibrational space, you have better clarity. Spirituality, therefore, the ability to connect with that which is greater than us, of which we are all a part. And I gave these definitions at the beginning. The recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than myself. Now, for whatever your spiritual practice is, you have to ask, what is that for you that is greater than you? Do you believe that you are supported, or do you think you're just roaming this earth randomly? What is the expression of that to you? What is the expression of a higher supportive power to you? Do you have unconditional love from that entity or from that being, that overall being? Or must you first do something to be loved and accepted? Because if you have to do something, if you're told that you have to do something to be loved and accepted, you have to accept, you have to declare before you can be loved. then that is what makes us live in separation. You say, maybe I didn't say it enough. Maybe I didn't use the right words. Maybe that's why things are not happening for me the way that I would like. In spirituality and mental health, we have to remember that we are spirit beings having a spiritual experience in a physical body and world. The questions we must ponder. What is the translation of yours or my mental health condition in relation to my spirit that is experiencing? What is my spirit that is experiencing in this physical body through this thing that I'm going through, trying to say? What could be happening on a spirit level that is allowing me to go through this? What is the spiritual meaning of what my physical reality is showing me? Because the minute you do that, you remove yourself from the problem. And now you're saying, okay, what does this mean? How do I process? What you're now outside looking in. The other one is there a message or lesson in the experience for me? That changes everything, because now you're not a victim, now you're a student. You're looking at it and saying, what is this teaching me? And knowing spirituality and mental health is a knowing that it's not physical, but is a knowing that what you're going through is non-physical, even though we don't term it as spiritual. We know that it is non-physical, but we never say it is spiritual. We just know that it's not my physical body, okay? So anything that's spiritual, if not the Holy Spirit, has been deemed to be evil. And that causes us to now go into low vibration. Somebody hears a voice and they feel like, oh my God, what was that? It must be a demon. So it must be some ghost. So they start to get into low vibration. And that starts to invite more of these entities to remind you that that's what it is. The first line of action when people know that something is not right is they go to church or they go to a traditional healer, because those are they're spiritual practitioners. The second line of action when that is not working is then they say, okay, let me go and see a therapist, because these days we are told that we can go and see a therapist. The therapist is also a spiritual practitioner, because they are speaking to you and trying to get you to view yourself from a different perspective so that you start to lift yourself up. And as you lift yourself up through the vibrational frequencies, you now start to gain more clarity and discernment. And now you can be a better judge of what is happening in your world. We are not alone. We have never, ever been alone. Look at the picture of the conscience. You have an angel, you have a demon. At least understand that we have those two. So how do we put ourselves in a state where we always listen to the angel, but also that should we listen to the demon voice, we acknowledge that we listened to the other voice and we just come right back. We have to banish fear. Fear for me is the number one opening for lower vibrational entities. We have sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, we have sovereignty because we have a spirit and a body. When it's just a spirit, they're looking for a host body that doesn't belong to them. They're just looking to rent some space. So kick the tenants out. If they don't deserve to be there, if you don't want them there, kick them out. But also, let's get curious. Remove the fear, start asking, what's happening? To carry out an internal investigation of events leading up to what we are going on. Seek, assess, analyze everything around you and about you. Constantly ask, constantly be in student mode. Then you will always be ready to receive answers. Take charge, take control of your presence, take control of your life, take control of your beingness. Take control. You are the physical being in the physical world. Take control. Speak. Speak positive. Create. Release that doesn't serve you. Embody the things that you want to embody. Choose wisely. Choose wisely from what has been presented. This slide here, for me, is everything. If somebody is struggling with a mental health issue, if you have gone through this, you have banished fear. First of all, you have ascertained that you are not alone. You have banished fear. You are now curious. In fact, curiosity is, you can't be curious and sad. You can't be curious and angry. You can't be curious. Curiosity is also, mixed with excitement. Then take charge. Once you've got those, then these are some of the things that you can do. Number one, cleanse. Do not shy away from cleansing. Cleanse with simple household items like salt. Smudge. Every culture around the world has a smudging technique. Either you're using incense or you're burning sage or you're burning something. God or the universe has provided the things that we need to support us in this area. Pray. But we're not praying, please, please help me. You're praying for discernment. You're praying for clarity of mind. You're praying for strength. You're praying for understanding. Meditate. I've been meditating since, I think, 2018. The most amazing thing, the most amazing way to connect, to just sit down and connect with your higher self. Exercise regularly. People don't understand that when you are surrounded by these entities, I want you to understand that they become like a wall around you, around your spirit, as above, so below. That is why when you're feeling low, when you're in a low vibration, when your vibe is low, you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to do things. Why? Because they have surrounded you. So do some exercise. Shake your physical body. Shake them off. Eat healthy. Carbohydrates, processed foods, all these added sugars, all those are low vibrational foods. Find high vibrational food. Go to the internet and find it. Connect with nature. Every time it rains, I say, thank you, universe, for washing the trees, because the leaves were looking a bit dusty. If the universe can clean its own leaves, why not me? So you go out in nature, hug a tree. I'm such a tree hugger. Therapy is spiritual. Talk to the practitioner. Talk to friends. But be mindful that you're just talking and you're also listening to yourself. So you're doing therapy for yourself as well. If you must, if you find yourself on the extreme side of the spectrum, please take medication. Take your medication, but as soon as that medication brings you down to a good place, go back to all these practices. And then find community, regardless of where you are. Always find community and lean into people who understand you, who are like you, who can support you and carry you on this journey. These things here for me are everything. These last two slides are everything when it comes to spirit, spirituality, and mental health. We have to use a holistic approach. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. The human being is a spirit and a body, a physical and spirit being. So psychology must embrace spirituality as much as spirituality has to embrace psychology to complete the loop. The science has to come with the non-science. The physical has to come with the spirit so that we fix people as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a quote from a musician. His name is Kenny Loggins. He is like a world-renowned musician, very successful. He has done so many, what are they called? Soundtracks of movies. But when I saw this quote, it really spoke to me. He says, and people who are creatives, artists, are very spiritual. That is why they create. the way they do because they're close to the Creator. This is the front edge of the spiritual psychological movement. I love this. This is the front edge of the spiritual psychological movement and is where the tools of psychology have finally come together to create a mass healing. I think spiritual psychology is the next wave. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope this has been as enriching for you as it has been for me. If you have any questions, now would be a good time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful session, covering all the topics about spirituality, mental health, and how our mental health can get affected from these kinds of spirit. You tell very well with various examples also, and you also emphasize the importance of the spiritual psychology. True, it is very much important nowadays. So, what will be your advice to the mental health professionals, especially the psychiatrists, psychologists, or the counselors? So, what advice you will provide to mental health professionals through this conference?
We are at a time now where we cannot shy away from looking at the human being as a whole. Science has looked at the physical body and understood the physical body. Everything that this body experiences is a manifestation of the spirit. And every time I looked at research and they say, oh, now we're looking at anxiety, this is what happens to the brain, this when someone is going through whatever they're going through, this is what's happening in the brain. I always say that is the physical manifestation of what is happening on the spirit. So psychology, psychiatry has got to come up now and join forces with the spiritual side, because it's only when we work together that we can fix, or rather help people, because anything I have picked up from the spiritual side is going to create certain habits in the physical. And once I have dealt with the spirit and we are now balanced there, then I have to deal with the habits. Otherwise, the habits then become vibrational wounds that allow those spirits back in. And then we continue in that vicious cycle. So it's time for us to work together.
Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. And before winding up this wonderful session, what will be your conclude message to all the world and humanity through this World Mental Health Week? What will be your conclude message to everyone?
I want us all to understand that, one, we are perfect. We are all perfectly imperfect. And in our imperfection, we all have a role to play in the world. We are all trying to fit in a perfect box. We are all trying to fit in a normal bracket. There is nothing like normal. It is such a wide spectrum of different things that it's only when we all bring our different essences, when we all bring our different special gifts and come together, that is when you have the colors of a rainbow. That is when you have what we are calling normal. But there's no single speck of the rainbow that is normal. There's no single speck of the rainbow that you can say is the rainbow. For it to be as beautiful as it is, all the different colors come, the light hits and all the colors come together. So we have to embrace who we are, ask the questions, what am I supposed to bring to this world? And then we can bring our authentic selves, and the universe will show us where we need to plug in, where our energy is needed, where our gifts are needed, so that we are not in conflict.